We are currently seeing a big rise from trainer gallery cards, specifically the Eeveelutions. Not really a big surprise considering Prismatic just dropped and everything's crazy expensive. It's bringing up all the prices of the other Eeveelutions, starting off with the Umbreon VMAX. If you're not familiar, this is from Brilliant Stars, the trainer gallery, and there's also Sylveon in the same trainer gallery as well. And it kind of is looking like Brilliant Stars, as a set, it's going to be a lot more stacked right now. But let's get into the prices. So 3 months ago, this was a $30 card, as you guys can see, for a long time. It shot up and it's continuing to shoot up. Most recent solds, 85, a few in the 60s. We're seeing as high as $99 or $100 here, and then in kind of in the 80s and 70s. So pricing has been a little bit all over the place. Only 32 copies available, and lowest listed from a starred seller is 75, which would be a little bit below market. And after that, it does shoot up into the 90s for the Umbreon VMAX. So a lot of people are not able to afford the newer Umbreon stuff, so they go, oh, what's the lesser stuff? I see this with sports cards a lot with like, oh, the rookie card's too expensive, go to a second year card kind of thing. PSA 10 prices as well into the $200 range. Last sold's 265. We're seeing a few, like a lower 200 here, a mid 200, 250, 250, 260, 250, and then 290 down here. So I would say based off this, 250, 260 market currently on the last solds for the Umbreon VMAX. It's also the Umbreon V that's going up as well. I think we talked about this one a little bit before. This one started to move before the VMAX, if I remember correctly. Let me know in the comments if that was the other way around. But kind of a similar thing. 3 months ago, this was a $20 card, and bull market, prismatic, everything pushing it up. We're seeing $50 market with last solds 70, 50, 49, 45, right on this is just the regular V. I think I actually prefer this artwork over the VMAX artwork personally. Just get a better look at the Pokemon. Lowest listed is 60, which would be $10 above the current market price. And then after that, it does shoot up, and we're seeing listings in the hundreds from starred sellers on TCG. So that shows me that these sellers are anticipating these cards continuing to climb, right? So the Umbreon V, the Umbreon VMAX, we also have the Sylveon we're going to touch on in a minute. But PSA 10 prices for this are a little less, 150, 160. There was one approaching 195, approaching 200, in the 170s, and another 195 right here for the Umbreon V. Now, the reason that this probably most likely is happening, I would credit it to this guy, and also Evolving Skies as well. They're kind of like lumped together at this point, but you have the Umbreon V, obviously, from Prismatic. 5 copies available. I mean, look at the lowest listeds here. Lowest listed on TCG Player is 1,700. And then, I mean, they're very consistently priced, right, around 1,750, with the sales being a little bit lower than that, 16, 1,700. Before that, some 14 and 1,300 sales. So once again, this guy's 1,700. You can pick up some of those other ones a little bit cheaper. And we're also going to dive into the PSA Pop Report, so stay tuned for that. So don't worry, we're going to touch on that. Sylveon also in the set. Now the VMAX one, I do like this VMAX one as well, obviously with the giant Sylveon and the trainer here. I do think that this one's fun. This one's up 143% in the past 3 months. Back here it was an $18 card, and now we're seeing market around 45, with the most recent sale actually in kind of in the 50s. Round this one up to 50. Before that, 53, and then kind of 40s all the way down the board on the Sylveon. Lowest listed is 54, and then it kind of shoots up into the 60s after that. So I would say if this chart updates, we're going to see, mid 50s for market price, 41 copies available. If we look back on the 1 year chart, which we should have done for the other cards, but it's going to look somewhat similar, kind of on all of these. Back here it was $15. We had the alt art boom, I like to call it. I don't know if that's the technical term, but this card did run up to $34. Came back down and settled, at that $17 range. So we are vastly eclipsing the previous high, which is something that you want to see. Shows a lot of strength. I think that with these cards, we're definitely going to continue to see these two run with the prismatic hype. I don't think that's a stretch to say. There's also just the regular Sylveon V. This is another nice card as well. You're going to see similar growth. They're all kind of tracking together, right? I like this one as well. I'm a sucker for the Pokemon with the trainer cards. I think between these ones, I think I prefer the VMAX on this one, to the V, but on the Umbreon, I prefer the V to the VMAX personally. Let me know in the comments, like, do you guys agree? Which one do you like, V or VMAX between the two? So 117% growth on this guy in the past 3 months. Similar, 17 bucks back here. You're seeing market at 40, and most recent sales a few in the 50s, and then back before that you kind of have mixed, like 50s, 30s, 40s, so it was a little bit all over the place. Lowest listed right now is 40, which would reflect the market price, and then after that it does jump into the 50s, and there's even $100 listings. So that shows me that, once again, these sellers, they're anticipating this price to go up, right? These they have a lot of sales too, so I don't know if you want to glean anything from that, but these sellers right here have 50,000 plus sales, so maybe they know the market a little bit more than some. As a big TCG player seller, a year ago this was a $13 card, $12. The Alt Art Boom pushed it to 26, and it came back down to, looks like 17 was the previous low before just running up. So some sellers betting on continued growth on these cards. Then, if you want to play the comparison game again, we're going to compare the Sylveon to the Prismatic Sylveon, right? We got 500 bucks recent sale. Before that, kind of mid to low 500s, pretty consistently. Besides one of those first sales, those first sales were in the 700s, and then it kind of came down. You went to the 6s, then the 550s, and then 5. Looks like 5 was the bottom. 500 have been the lowest sales, at least on TCG Player. That's also reflected in the current listings as well. You're seeing getting up a little bit closer to 600 on some of these listings, and then after that it does go into the 600s down here. So once again, you compare the cards, right? You can have this for $500-$600, or you can have the other ones that are more affordable, right? So it caters to a wider audience between the different types of cards. We're also going to talk about the trainer galleries as a whole towards the end of the video, but let's look at some PSA pop reports, because there's something very interesting right here. So this column right here, this is the Umbreon VMAX in English. Now, 7,800 copies graded. Check out this gem rate, 6,000 tens. So this is a very easy card to grade for the VMAX. The V, which is right here, 5,700 copies graded, not as easy to grade, 3,200 tens. But you can see a lot more of the VMAX already graded. So yeah, but maybe people weren't submitting quite as many because this card's a little bit more difficult to grade, right? So interesting gem rates on that, like 6,000 out of 7,800. That's real good. So that one caught my eye, right? And you can see the the pop reports on some of these. We also have the Sylveon here. So this is the VMAX down here. You're gonna see a similar thing. 4,400 copies graded on the VMAX Sylveon, 3,300 in a 10. Then you have the regular V, 3,200 copies graded, only 1,800 in a 10. So that kind of matches up between the cards. The V's tougher to grade, the VMAX a little bit easier to grade. So I mean, well, a lot easier to grade, honestly. So yeah, when you look at the numbers, and Sylveon being graded a lot less than Umbreon, that kind of makes sense as well. Now, when we talk about the trainer galleries, this has been a topic I've touched on recently, and we're just seeing continued growth. The trainer galleries before, if you're newer, were kind of like, oh yeah, the trainer gallery's fun. Those cards are kind of, like people, there wasn't really, the truth of it is there wasn't a monetary value that people liked that was attached to these cards. These were cheap, right? These were kind of like, I'm not saying like trash, but they were like, oh yeah, those are the fun ones that you pull that are cool, but they're not worth anything. And that is, something that happens in the hobby. People want the expensive cards, and I totally get it. But we had the Rayquaza recently start to come up in value. You got the Umbreon VMAX now. I mean, once again, we've talked about the Starmie. You got Pikachu, Garchomp, another Pikachu. I really like both of these Pikachus. I prefer the V to the VMAX personally, but I think the VMAX is still cool. And then the evolutions we've been talking about. You got Mimikyu, who's a popular Pokemon. We touched on Blaziken recently. I still think there's room to go on these Blazikens. The Sleepy Pikachu. You have the other Vaporeon. So you got yellow border cards here with all the other evolutions. Not all of them, but the like the original 3 and Eevee. You even have a Gengar one and a Charizard. There's the legendary birds. I mean, when you start looking at the trainer galleries, if you take the monetary values away on some of these lesser cards, say they were to run, say this Charizard card was more expensive, everyone would be looking at this card differently. And, some of these cards are easy to pull. I understand that, right? Trainer gallery cards are easy to pull. But we're seeing some of the cards move. So it just takes, once they start getting bought and the prices go up, people are like, oh, yeah, I like that card. But, the Articuno, And you know, the Zapdos to a lesser extent. I do like those cards as well. There's a nice Snorlax card. I mean, I'm just saying that the trainer gallery cards are fun, good cards, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of these continue to rise in value. The Eevee here as well, nice cards. So you know, the trainer gallery starting to move up isn't really a big surprise. It's just nice to see. And once again, you attach a higher monetary value to these cards, and they start to be looked at in a totally different light, which is just it's just human nature. But yeah, because like I said, if this Charizard card was 20-30 bucks, it'd be looked at a lot differently than $9. So, you know, I'm not saying that that card's going to do that right now. I'm just bringing it up as an example. Or the legendary birds, the Moltres, get these, start cracking into like $20-30 range, and you know, it's totally a different ball game. We're also going to talk about some promos. I had this requested. Somebody in the comments, I can't remember the name. I do apologize, but this is for you. We saw the promo from the Ultra Premium Collection shoot up recently, 191%. It did come down just a little. 3 months ago, this was a $9 card, right? And it shot all the way up to around 29. Came back down to 26. There's a lot of copies available, right? These are widely available promos. They were in every box. But very consistent sales. Look at these, all in the 26s. There's a few, there's a 25 and even a 32 down here. And something you'll see, like somebody bought 11 copies right here at 26. And I think the reason is we're going to talk about PSA 10 pricing on this card. PSA 10 pricing, just remember, this is a $26 card. And the market has really accepted that. You can see the lowest listeds were all of $26, $27 right here. So the market has accepted this new current price for this card. If we take a little zoom out, you'll see, you know, this didn't have an alt art run up, right, during that time. This was a $4 or $5 card for a long, long time, then slowly started to climb, a few ebbs and flows along the way to get to where we are at now. So that chart, 417% growth in the past year on the Mew. So if you've opened some UPCs or you have this promo, you might want to look at possibly grading it, just because PSA 10 pricing, if you're not aware, the last sold was $400, albeit this looks like it might be the outlier. That was this morning that this one sold for $400. And yeah, I just want to double check that this was not actually a Japanese card or something. Sorry, English, because sometimes, you know, a Japanese card sneaks in there when you're searching. But before that, 325, 300, 300, 300. There was a 400 back here as well. So you guys see where I'm saying you can turn a, so tougher to grade, $26 card into a possibly $400 card from this promo. So, you know, whoever's buying 11 copies, I would bet they're probably looking to grade these potentially. So if you have this card and you know, or multiple copies, right? And you're thinking about maybe a way to make some extra cash, grow your collection, invest, however you want to look at it, right? Just be aware that PSA 10 pricing is a little high right now, I would say, on this card. We even have the Mewtwo, which honestly, this is a very stunning card. It's one of those ones where like this Mew and the Mewtwo, I wish that these weren't promos and they were included in the set. But we got this guy going up 214% as well. Not as crazy of pricing. It's around $10. 3 months ago it was $3 though, so that's pretty good. It shot up to 10, came back down to 7, and now we're seeing it back to 10 again. Lots of copies available though. 303 of this guy available. And the market's pretty accurate, right? They're like, it's $10 card. We're all going to list at $10. So nothing crazy going on with the Mewtwo. The gains are insane, though, when you look at it percentage-wise. A year ago, it looks like the low, you could have had this card for $1.08. So yeah, 590% growth. That is kind of wild when you look at it like that. But yeah, it was just a undervalued promo. The UPCs started to go up, right? And once the boxes get expensive, the promos tend to rise. I mean, even right here, it had risen to $5 or almost $5, which is a pretty big jump. It came back down, and then yeah. So we're at the $10 range. $10 card, PSA 10 pricing. Last solds, 200, 197, 220, 200. You can see you got the trio right here. So this is something, I haven't talked about this on the channel in a while, but you have sequentially graded the promos, right? So you have the Mew, the other Mew, and the Mewtwo. If you submit them to PSA, like one after the other, the certification numbers is what we're talking about. So the little numbers that are on here from PSA. Sequential set sold for $515. So collectors will pay a premium for that. That is a thing that happens. You can pair that up. You can do that with the legendary dogs from Crown Zenith, right? This video is not really super about that. I have a dedicated video about that if you want to go back and check that out. But, you know, just showing that you can turn a $10 card into a 200. Once again, grading can be tough if you're newer to it. I do have a grading video, like kind of like a newer, like a how-to newcomer video. If you're interested in that, it might help. But I understand that grading can be daunting, but it is a part of the hobby that is there is a lot of money to be had there. So that's why I bring up these prices, just to make people aware, right? It might be worth looking into for you. A few other promos that I thought that were worth mentioning here. You have the Pikachu with the 3 starters up 130%. Cracking the $100 mark is why I wanted to talk about this. And only 10 copies currently available on TCG Player. 3 months ago we were at $44. Now we're cracking 100. With the most recent sales all being in there. I mean, look at some of these. Back down here we're seeing 150, 160, 130. This was just what, like 2 weeks ago? We were here. It looks like it's come down. Probably more sellers came in and listed, but now there's not that many available. You have 105 from starred sellers, then 117, and then just a few copies, and we're up to listed. Once again, listed is not the same as sold, but listed at 200 and 250, right? So these sellers betting that this card's going to continue to run, and with the low quantity available, that would make sense. Once again, this is the Pokemon Center stamped version. Much more desired because of the limited availability of the stamped version. Actually, we're going to go back for a second. Sorry, I keep forgetting to touch on the longer charts. I wanted to look at the 1 year. The 1 year does show much more steady growth over with like less dips on these promos. A year ago, this was a $16 card. Obviously, the PC ETB thing has been a more recent development of just like how crazy those can go, and these are the driving factor behind those boxes, right? So it just went from 16 up to 30, stagnated at around 30 for a while in August, September, and just has been climbing with the most sales coming right here in early December. That's when the most sales were, at the $70 mark. So somebody or multiple people were on it. They saw that this card was rising and they capitalized on that. But the Greninja, probably one of the most stunning cards of the era. It is a promo. Once again, throw this into a main set, this card would be very expensive. But this card's continuing to climb as well. It's one of those promo cards from like Shrouded Fable that it kind of, once again, it's a promo. It's not in the set, but it is in a Shrouded Fable box. One of the cooler boxes, I think, just because of the promo. But 3 months ago, this was at $11, and now we're about at 30. Most recent sales are in the 30s, 31, 30, and then a few kind of like upper 20s, lower 30s on the Greninja. We'll zoom out a little bit on this. I don't think we have a full 1 year. I think 6 months might be better. Yeah, so 6 months on this guy, 250% growth. When it first came out, $8, $9, $10 for a long time. And then slowly started creeping up, and now, obviously, we're at $30, 54 copies available. The market says, yep, this is a $30 card. You can tell that by the listings. It's all pretty much about $30 from starred sellers. Stunning looking card in person. So I just thought the Greninja deserved a little bit of attention here. And PSA 10 pricing on this guy, you could take a $30 card up to 170, pretty consistent on these sales. And then in the 180s, we're looking at for the promo. Just a nice looking card. So yeah, grading potentials there. There's grading potentials on every card, if I'm being honest. Not every card. Every like kind of popular card. There has to be some, you can't just be grading like commons, right? Although I'm sure there's a specific scenario in which you could probably make that worth it. Then I also wanted to touch, last card we're going to talk about real quick is the Miraidon. So this is the SV base promo, Pokemon Center stamped. It's cracking around $70 now. When I was looking at the chart or the list of cards sorted from price high to low, this one just caught my eye. I think it moved up a few slots from $30 3 months ago up into the 70s. And low quantities available again. Once again, this is what's going to be driving these cards, the scarcity and the exclusivity of the stamps on here. 192% growth, and this for a long time. I mean, look at the consistency of this in the low to mid 20s. We're talking from January to September, this card stagnated at this price, and then shot up into the 30s and just went off. So tons of buying opportunity. Once again, somebody right here or multiple people saw that this card started to move just a little, or was about to, and this was when the most copies were sold at $25. So somebody big brained this one for sure. And yeah, lowest listed, we're in the 80s. And once again, this is the part that interests me. These sellers, you don't have to take my word for it. I don't sell on TCG Player. If I'm selling, it's more on eBay. But these sellers are betting that this card is going to continue to run due to there not being very many copies available. It goes 80, 100, 106, 125, and then there's a $200 listing here. So they're betting on this card continuing to move up. So that's what the market is betting the sellers on TCG Player. That's fact. That's what they're betting. Otherwise, if they didn't think it was going to go up, they wouldn't be listing higher than the current market value, right? So trainer gallery cards looking real good. Promo cards looking real good. Market obviously looking real good. So you could say that. You could say that about pretty much anything from the set. But we touched on some pop reports that I thought were relevant as well. You saw some really high gem rates on some of those cards, so that was very interesting. And yeah, some promos, just some cards moving. We're in the I like to call it like we're in the trainer gallery, or specifically the illustration rare era. Tons of IRs popping off, but I think that does it for today's market update. Just wanted to touch on some of those. Yeah, let me know what you guys think, like I said, on the Vs versus the VMAXs, and thoughts on some of these cards. Also, just want to like bring it up. Not everyone who watches this is like an investor, which is totally fine. You could just be a collector and just know that, like, hey, you know that Mew card, that Mew Pro, you open that UPC, that Mew card's worth more now. It's just nice for people to know that, like, right? So collectors or investors, I feel like, could and should enjoy this content, even if you're only on the collecting side, because like the market is moving so fast that if you were looking at a card and you haven't checked in a week, it could be 2-3 times the price. So it's just, anyways, it just applies to everyone. That's all I'm getting at. But that's gonna do it for this one, guys. I will catch you in the next one, and remember, it was never a phase.